Yeah, but those are the Venetians. These are the Veneto.
What was the Venetians? That's Venetian. Venetian and Veneto are the same thing.
No, Venice and Veneto.
Yeah, but Veneto is the region. Then there's something else
Venezia and Veneto, two different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is from the Dolomites.
This is definitely
middle top.
Venice, the Venice region.
No, Veneto. Verona.
Veneto, yeah. Veneto is the region where Venice is. Venice is a city in the region of Veneto.
Okay.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Chef Tyler's Croatian Kitchen. I'm Chef Tyler, and today I have for you a traditional Dalmatian recipe, pečen na riba, or baked fish. In Dalmatia, over the summer, everyone is outside grilling fish. It is probably the quintessential Dalmatian dish, but once it gets too cold to be outside, we can still have your fish just baked in the oven. This recipe comes from my dad, who is very Croatian about giving the recipe. I asked what I needed to do, and he told me to cut some vegetables, put them into a pan, put the fish on there, make sure you salt it, and then cook until it's done, which is kind of hard to follow if you don't know what he's talking about. So I've gone through and translated his crypticness into something easier to follow. As per usual, our ingredients are very simple. For our vegetable base, we have onions, carrots, and potatoes. Everything needs to be sliced very, very thin because the fish cooks very quickly, and we also want the vegetables to cook at the same rate. So if you have something really thick, like maybe cubes of potatoes, they're not going to cook all the way through by the time the fish is done. So we want thin slices that will actually cook through. For the fish, I have sea bream. I have about maybe 1.5 pounds. This should be good for 2 people. And to stuff inside the fish, we have lemons and rosemary. If you have thyme, I'd also use some thyme, but unfortunately I cannot find any at the market today. While I have everything prepped here, before you start anything, preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 175 degrees Celsius. This is going to be a little bit lower than some recipes maybe you find online, but this just means that we'll give the vegetables a little bit more time to cook through. So while your oven is preheating, let's just go ahead and fill up our baking dish. We'll start with our vegetables. The amount of vegetables you use is going to be really dependent on how much fish you have. So for about, 1.5 pounds of fish, it's maybe like 700 grams, 1 or 2 onions sliced and 2 carrots sliced should suffice. But just go ahead and stir everything into the bottom of the pan and you'll see if it looks like it's going to be too much. I think I might have actually cut up too much because this is starting to get a little too crowded and we still haven't even added in our potatoes. But we'll go ahead and add in our potatoes. Once again, these need to be sliced very thin to ensure that they cook all the way through. We'll just go ahead and stir these around as well. I had these resting in water after I cut them, but make sure to drain and dry your potatoes before putting them into the pan. After all of our vegetables are in the pan, let's just go ahead and pour some olive oil on top, making sure that everything gets nicely coated. We'll put the oil in before we put the fish, and this ensures that all the vegetables get covered in olive oil and none of it is covered by the fish. Just go ahead and give a little mix, make sure everything is nice and incorporated, and just recreate our bed once more. Now it's time to bring our attention to our fish. First, what I'm going to do is take a knife and just make some slits along the top of the fish. Nothing too deep, but just enough to break the skin, and flip it over and do the same on the other side. Once our fish is ready, we're going to go ahead and stuff using start with our rosemary. You should have had the fish gutted and scaled. That's free of charge at every fishmonger. And so into the gut of the fish here, we'll stuff in first our rosemary and then 1 or 2 lemon slices depending on how much room you have, and close it shut as such. There's no need to use any cooking twine to hold the fish together, just leaving it here is good. So before we put the fish into our pan, just grab a paper towel and dry off. Make sure that the fish is as dry as you can get it, remembering that moisture is the enemy of a good sear. Once our fish is nice and dry, we'll go ahead and add into the pan. And once our fish is in our pan, we'll once again go ahead and put some more oil on the fish. There's no such thing as too much olive oil. After that, we'll just take our salt and go ahead and liberally salt the fish. Make sure everything gets nice and seasoned. We'll also go ahead and season our potatoes as well. I find if you salt the fish before you pour the olive oil on, the olive oil will just rinse the salt off and you're back to where you started, that is, with nothing. So once our oven is up to temperature, we'll put in our fish and it should cook for about 20 to 25 minutes. An ideal temperature for fish on the inside is 140 Fahrenheit. So if you have a thermometer, you can always check, but it should be nice and crispy. And in the words of my dad, you should know when it is done, but I'll be sure to show you when it is done so you will know as well. Go ahead and put this in the oven and we'll be back when it's ready. In Dalmatia, there is a saying that a fish swims 3 times. The first time is in the sea, the second time is in olive oil, and the third time is in wine. Since the fish has already swam its first time in the sea, it is currently swimming its second time in the oven since we doused it in olive oil, but it will continue to swim in olive oil while it is on our plate. Hence, our dipping sauce will mainly be olive oil. In addition to olive oil, we have garlic and parsley. The garlic I've already gone ahead and minced very finely and added into our sauce boat. Next we'll do is we'll take some parsley. You really just want the parsley leaves, so it's gonna go flying away everywhere. And we'll just pick off our parsley leaves as such, and we'll leave the stem behind. We don't really care much for the stem. It adds a little bit of a bitter quality that we don't like. And so the stem we'll just discard. Once we have our parsley, let's try to get it all into a nice little bunch, and we'll finely chop our parsley. Make sure your knife is sharp while you're cutting the parsley because we want to cut through the leaves and not just mash the parsley into the cutting board. If you can push the parsley out of the way and you see little to no green on the cutting board, that means you actually cut the parsley. And now with the parsley cut up, we'll go ahead and add it in with the garlic. Just right on in. And just mix it around a bit so everything gets nice and covered. The rest of the parsley we'll save for garnishing on the fish. So for now, I'll just put it over to the side, clean up my workstation a little bit. So once the garlic and parsley are put together, we're gonna go ahead and add the olive oil. I'm using my family's olive oil because we want to use something that's a bit higher quality since we're actually going to be tasting the olive oil. So I'm just gonna add in enough olive oil to cover everything. It should be probably somewhere between 1/4 to 1/2 cup, dependent on the size of your bowl. And now we're just gonna let this sit while the fish continues to cook. And this way the flavor of the garlic and the parsley can infuse in with the olive oil. So after the fish is ready, we'll go ahead and take it out of the oven. And you'll see along the side, I'll point out to you everything on the fish so we know it is finished. We'll just pull it out first. It's quite warm. Here we go. We can see mainly with the vegetables how everything is starting to brown, so at least the vegetables have cooked through. But the fish is all very white. We see some nice coloring here. And if we just took a spatula, the fish flakes apart very easily. And that's how we know the fish is done. And now it's time for the plating. First what we want to do is remove the lemons from the inside of the fish, as well as the pieces of rosemary. Don't be afraid to really get in there. It's not terribly hot. Or if you want, you can just grab a fork as well. The traditional way of serving a fish will be take the entire fish, put it onto your plate, and serve. However, this fish is quite big and there are 2 of us, so I'm just going to go ahead and fillet the fish. I will need, first I'll just cut off the head, and once everything is nice and cooked, it comes off quite easily. And the fork and knife will just cut along the bottom. Once you cut the bottom part off up to the tail, you'll take your knife, we'll just move our spatula out of the way, and the fish just opens right up along the backbone as such. And we'll just go ahead and pull off some more of the fish along the side. And how we'll serve is we'll serve one side of the fillet per person. Since I already have the top side off, I'll just cut along the top to move everything out of the way. And there we go. And leave these here. I'll go ahead and grab our fish. This fish is quite flaky. As you can see, it is falling apart. But that also is just another indicator that it is well done, or it is cooked through. We try to make sure to get some potatoes, carrots, and onions as well along the side. Like I said before, while we were making our dipping sauce, the fish swims 3 times. It's already swam the first time in the sea. It's partially swam the second time in the oil. Let's just go ahead and add some more oil onto the fish so it can really swim its second time. And of course, the third time the fish swims is in wine. So go ahead and pour a nice bottle of white to enjoy with our fish. So now that everything is prepared, let's go ahead and take our taste for Greg. Try to get a good amount, good fish with the garlic and the parsley. I'll just do the fish alone at first. The fish is amazing. It is so tender, not dry at all. It falls apart, melts in your mouth. The oil and the garlic and the parsley all together just add a whole extra dimension. This meal has everything you will want. Flaky fish, perfect vegetables. This is the quintessential Dalmatian dish. Served with a nice glass of wine. Dalmatia and Jivia.
Chef Tyler has informed me that upon cleaning a fish, well, there are certain liberties that must be taken. Chef Tyler?
So the cheek is probably they say it's the sweetest part of the fish. So just take your fork. It's going to be right under where the eye is. Go basically from like the eye to the mouth. It's where your cheek would be if you were this fish. And just peel away very gently the skin.
No.
And that little piece of meat right there. Just pull it out.
Oh, God.
It is the sweetest part.
That's quite good. But it came out of his face.